Hi, Melanie Muenchinger here, illustrator for Gina K Designs. Today I have a new project for you with my newest set from Gina K Designs, Stately Flowers 9. The techniques today involve tearing, both faux torn edges and real torn edges. And the way that this card came about today, I actually grabbed for a piece of paper on my desk because I wanted to test out the ink to sponge onto this card and just testing for the color. But the mat that I had actually had a big hole much like this from cutting out my picture for the previous project. Sometimes I just grab scraps to test them out. But then I was kind of liking how it was looking, and I kept going and I kept coloring, and I realized I cannot use this mat on this project because it has this big hole. What am I going to do? So in addition to making the faux torn edge, I decided to go ahead and show you what I would do here for this fix of making a real torn edge, and then how you can have some flowers peeking out from under it. So whether you're doing a real torn edge or a faux torn edge, having something revealed underneath is kind of like opening a little present. The other products that you're going to need for today, in addition to the Stately Flowers 9 stamp set, are some cardstock, and I'm using the Gina K Pure Luxury Dark Sage base weight, and then some layering weight white cardstock. The ink pads I have are the Gina K Warm Cocoa, Dark Sage, which coordinates with the cardstock, and the black Onyx. I've got various size acrylic blocks for stamping out the images. This is a flourish from Carolyn King's Elegant Flourishes set, also from Gina K Designs. The way that I decided to use this, I just had it out on my workspace from showing other things that could go in the picture from one of my previous videos, and I thought, you know, this would really lend a nice look to this card to go with that script and that flower. You'll also need just a little bit of adhesive and sponge dauber, and just a few markers today. I've got the Spectrum Noir DG2 and DG4, and you can use either the BG1 or the EB1 to put some shading on those flowers, or you might want to use a combination of both. These greens are a little bit darker than what I usually use on my florals. I have to say I haven't stamped a lot or used the Dark Sage a lot in my projects, but I'm actually really liking it, so I'm glad that I pulled it out for today's project. You'll see here on this chart, here is the DG2 and the DG4. This Dark Sage has a lot of brown in it. In comparison, I use the fresh asparagus a lot. You can see how this has a lot more yellow in it, and you'll want to go with those brighter greens. So this DG4 is almost a perfect match for the Dark Sage. If you're using Copics, I would recommend possibly the G99 or maybe the EB2 or G85, and then maybe the YG95. These are faded a little bit because I actually made this chart on my own as I added Copic colors to my collection, and it has faded a little bit after 5 or 6 years. Okay, so let's begin with our mat. Oh, and you will also need a piece of scratch paper to create that faux torn edge. All right, I will post the measurements for this mat below, but you'll want to go ahead and just make a tear in your scratch paper. And if that is more severe than you want it, then you can go back and just make a change, rip out little sections, or if it's too straight, you can make it more jagged. And you can also reuse these over and over again. But you want to make sure that if you're mass producing and you have ink sponged all over that, that you're careful to just let it dry so that you're not transferring more ink than you want to on your project. Okay, so I'm going to lay this right on the edge here, and I'm going to take my sponge dauber and the warm cocoa ink. You could also use a craft ink on this if you want, and start on the edge to see how much ink you have on there before you start putting it over here. And you're just going to want to gently go along the edge first, and I'm just rubbing it in circles. And it's up to you how much you want this to transfer all the way across that edge, but we're trying to make it look like we actually have a tear there. So you can check it as many times as you need to, and then just carefully put it back. When you're rubbing over, you want to be careful that you're not pressing this in so that the ink is going under where the edge is. But the warm cocoa or the craft, they create a really nice parchment look when you sponge onto the white. And so it's just going to look like you have a page of an old journal or a diary underneath it. Okay? So there we've got that. Now I'm going to cover this back up, and then I'm going to stamp my script. And you might want to do this with the brown again, with the warm cocoa. I want it to pop out just a little bit more, so I'm going to use the black as if this was a printed book. Now, this is not best practice to use such a small block for this. As you can see, it's hanging off the edges, but because they're going to be going off the edge anyway, I went ahead and grabbed it. So you can improvise when you need to. I have the flourish on the other block. And you want to make sure that it's going the right side up. Okay. And then we'll stamp it again and again. And you can do that rock and roll technique that I showed you if you want to have it look a little bit more faded. And then we'll pull that away. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and stamp the apple blossom in this brown. So this is also a nice ink for stamping your images. Okay, and put it right about like this. And originally what I was trying to create was the look of maybe like a botanical print on one page, and then it looked like you had torn out the edge of it and you had some journaling underneath it. So if you don't want to tear it and you like to have this whole mat just the way it is, you could even put the name of the flower underneath it like it is a botanical drawing. All right, now we're going to go ahead and add this flourish and the dark sage, and you're just going to put it just right to the edge, and it can overlap this if you want, or you can cover it up with the other side of your mask. But I just love the way that that accents that and fills out your mat. So this is a really useful little stamp. It's a gorgeous set, the Elegant Flourishes. I recommend it. I use it on a lot of things. Okay, now let's add some color to this. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the leaves very quickly. And again, some of the petals on this image are kind of ambiguous whether they're a petal or a leaf, so you can decide on your own just how much greenery and how much color you want in the image. So I'm just picking out these few that could be the flower as more leaves. And then I'm going to put some green here just in the middle and here. And then I'm going to take my green marker. And if you end up not tearing, I forgot to say, I ended up tearing out all of that in my other card, but you might want to add some brown there to coordinate with the edge of this. So I might just grab a coordinating brown really quickly so you can see how that would look. And I know this looks very dark, but I'm going to go back and blend this. And then I'm just dotting on this darker green on the tips of those little anthers. And I'll put just a little bit in here. Okay. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to go back. And you're just pushing that color in, blending them together. And like you've seen me do in my other videos, if you want to do some tip-to-tip coloring, keep the light marker in your dominant hand that you color with. Pick up the darker ink from the open marker and just continue adding it until you feel like it's finished. Okay? All right, so now let's go ahead and grab this EB1. And I'm just going just right over the veins in the middle of the flower, and then just right there along the edges. So this is just kind of like an ivory or bone color. And I just thought it looked really pretty against this dark sage. Kind of a yellow-gray brown. So you're going on the underside, you're imagining the light coming in this direction. Okay, and then I'll show you what this beachy one looks like on here. So you see, again, kind of a light tan. Has maybe a little bit more pink in it. And then we'll add some to those buds. Okay, all right, now, again, if you want to just add your greeting right here, you could do that. So I'll show you real quick with some black ink, and I wanted this to kind of play off the black ink on the other side. So I like elements to repeat. So you could just finish it off that way if you like the more traditional rectangle mat. Or if you want to do some tearing, I'm just going to pull along the edge. And then I always like to just take my fingernail and just pull some of this up just to create a little bit more texture. And it really accentuates just the white on that reveal. And tear away if you feel like it's looking a little bit too geometric, those folds or tears. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flower again. And this is almost like paper piecing in that I'm going to have it line up, but I'm just looking right approximately where this is going to go. And I see the stamp is like this. So I'm going to lift this off and I'm going to stamp it here, and that's just an approximation. And then I'll do it again, turning it slightly to have it down here. So when I add this with some adhesive, you'll see the little reveal. Just ran out of adhesive. There we go. Okay. So we'll place that right on there. And then we'll have that greeting peeking right there in the corner, just nested into those flowers. Very simple. So just 2 layers, but I love the look of this. I hope you enjoy seeing how to do the faux torn edge, as well as maybe some different ways that you can use your scraps up a little bit more rather than tossing them out after you've done some cutting. You know, every little piece can be used on a card, and it's just a way to save money, but also to add more interest to your cards. I hope you enjoy this project, and please visit my blog, Hands, Head, and Heart, Hands, Head, and Heart, for more inspiration, and follow us on Stamp TV. Thank you for watching today.